Trust is a fundamental building block to any relationship. But what do we do when a marriage starts off with lying behavior? My letter today is from somebody I'm calling Amrita, who shares her dilemma. You too can submit your letter at bit.ly/Dear Yash. My words are not a replacement for couples therapy or individual therapy, but I'm going to be going through Amrita's letter and sharing some ideas. Amrita writes, Dear Yash, I've been married for 2 years and a few months. It was an arranged marriage with 6 months of conversations before we got married. When I was conversing with my now husband, in our 6 month courtship period, he seemed too good to be true, checking almost all of my criteria. As a person who hadn't been in relationships previously and coming from a family who looks down on relationships, dating, and love marriages, I also wanted and rather felt I deserved someone who didn't have any previous attachments. Hmm. I went to great lengths to be this way myself, and this was a non negotiable for me. My partner soon realized how important this criteria is for me when I reacted severely to anecdotes that he shared, wherein he said he was pursued by multiple girls but he didn't entertain them. I refused to believe this but still went ahead and got married. After making a great compromise with regard to economic strata, net worth. Less than a month into the marriage, I found evidence that he was in a relationship. Oof. He vehemently denied and said that they were just friends. But 2 months into the marriage, I found concrete evidence, chats, and confronted him, and he admitted he had lied and broken my trust. After everything that I compromised, manipulation, gaslighting is what I got in return. He really wanted to get married to me, he said, and didn't want to lose me, and hence lied to me. In terms of my history, I'm someone who has massive trust issues and believes in the mantra don't trust anyone till they prove themselves trustworthy. I come from a conservative family with traditional values. We're a pretty well to do family, but give a lot of importance to education and hard work. My husband comes from a hardworking, well educated family with a lot of goodwill, but hardly a match with regard to financial status. I always imagined getting married into a well to do family, but as destiny had it, I chose education and good character over money and got married into this family, compromising a lot of aspects of my life and lifestyle, only to realize I've been lied to, manipulated, and cheated on. My question is he's loving in many ways, but I can't trust him. My mental health and career have both taken a beating because of this, but divorce is not an option. What to do now? And that's Amrita. Okay, Amrita, first of all, I want to say that I really see your pain and I see your regret and I see your confusion. Being cheated on can really cause so much pain. People who've been cheated on actually experience and they show the symptoms of post traumatic stress. So, no wonder you're confused, no wonder you're hurting and angry. Um, your mental health and career have suffered, you say. So, one of the first things I want to tell you is I hope you're getting help and attending to yourself. And I think therapy is one of the things that's going to be very helpful in this situation. You haven't mentioned it, so I'm assuming that this relationship that your husband was in with the other woman is now over. It's painful. 2 months into the marriage, you find out that your husband is in a relationship. I'm hopeful that now there's no contact with that person and he's truly remorseful. It would be really complicated if it was ongoing, but I'm just making the assumption that it's really over. Now, he said that he really wanted to get married to you and that's why he lied. And even if that's true, the fact is he told a really huge lie. And that's something that you found out at a time that you were supposed to be building the base for your marriage, a really strong bond 2 months into your marriage. So I'm just acknowledging the amount of pain that you've been through. And I hope that you're getting help. Now, the thing is that a lot of people might say in a situation like this, just leave him. And, once a cheater, always a cheater. And you've got your whole life ahead of you. It's only been 2 years. But I'm not going to say that because I recognize that things are often a lot more complex than that. And you say that he's a loving person. So I'm assuming you also have some reasons to stay in the relationship. But the one thing that I was wondering about is where you said divorce is not an option. I'd rather you think about whether it really is an option. And then if you choose to stay in the relationship, it's an informed choice. It's not like you're stuck because you have no option. So I'm just encouraging you to reframe that and examine where that no option is coming from. Now, There's no doubt you've been badly hurt by his lying and cheating at the very beginning of the relationship. Now, this comes on top of what you already describe as you're having massive trust issues. So these wounds need to be addressed. And another message that I have for you is that I've seen couples who get past something that happened early in the relationship by ignoring it and not talking about it and not really fully processing what happened. And 15 years later, they're still tripping over that lump in the carpet under which they've buried all the dirt. So it doesn't go away, and it's really important to address it. So it does sound like couples therapy is a space where you could actually make sense of what happened and then make some informed decisions together and as individuals. Now, some of what I'm going to say to you may not be easy to hear, but I think it might be helpful to consider it. I'm going off some of what you've said in your letter. So, you say you come from a conservative family who looked down on relationships, dating, and love marriage. And so, it was a non negotiable for you that your partner have no previous attachments. So I want you to really question whose value this really is, because it sounds like you may have been adapting to your family. It's also entirely possible that this is your value too. But at some point in our adulthood, we do have to ask, why do we believe what we believe? How much of it is internalized from our parents or other important, significant figures? And how much of it is really our own belief? It's a part of our growing up and individuation process. So I'm just asking you to think about these questions. And I couldn't help but wonder whether even that no divorce is not an option. Does that also come from sort of external voice? Or is it something that's really core to you? Where is it coming from is an important question to examine. I was also curious about those massive trust issues that you mentioned. Is it from your own experience, or is it again a voice of somebody who says, don't trust people? You say your mantra is don't trust people until they have proven themselves trustworthy, which can be protective. It can be an adult decision. But when you say massive trust issues, I can't help but wonder, is it to do with some experience that you had? Is it to do with somebody else's value that you've taken in? So again, these are important things for you to learn about when it comes to your own relationship with trust. One of the puzzling things for me was how come, despite not believing him, when he said that he was telling you about the multiple girls who pursued him and he did not entertain them, you mentioned that you didn't believe him, but you went ahead anyway. So, what was puzzling for me is somebody who has such a strong value for trust and who says she has massive trust issues. Despite that disbelief, you went ahead into the relationship. So, there's something there which is worth examining. I was also struck by how many times you actually mentioned this word compromise in your letter. So the compromises with regard to his economic status and his net worth and that of his family compared to your family. So now I see your overall regret and the resentment and the fact that despite that you were lied to and cheated on. So it's very, very painful. But I'd also like you to think about, what does this mean when you say so many times that his economic strata didn't match up to yours? And even if that has been a narrative so far for you, is it really a helpful narrative in your marriage going ahead, assuming you do commit to this relationship? So it sounds like that would be an important area to work on, to really process what that means and to see whether there's a more helpful version of the truth that you can tell yourself and bring to your marriage. Another thing that stood out for me is when you spoke about the strong reaction you had when the topic of past relationships came up. It seems like he sensed that it wouldn't be okay to tell you the truth, and so he lied about his past relationships. Now, I'm not saying that in any way excuses him from having lied to you, and certainly not from having been in a relationship when he got married to you. That is absolutely not okay, and that's not your fault. But what I'm trying to tell you is that going forward, if you want to build a culture of truth telling in your relationship, then you have to recognize that there is somebody who lies, but often there is someone who is their partner, who is the lie invitee. This is a term that Ellen Bader uses in her book, Tell Me No Lies, a book I highly recommend for you. But what she basically says in that book is that when there is a partner who is not able to tolerate the truth and their reaction is very strong, the other partner is invited and encouraged to lie. So if you are working on this relationship, then that will be another thing to really build a culture of trust where both partners can be authentic and they can really share what's going on with them. And the other partner has to create a culture of safety in the relationship by being able to tolerate the truth, by being calm and self regulated and open and curious, and not jumping in with reactions or criticism or withdrawal or the silent treatment. These are all the ways in which truth telling is compromised. So it's something that I'd like you to know, that if you're working on the relationship, it'll be important to work on this aspect as well. I do want to recommend the book After the Affair, because processing the affair is important. Making meaning of how much it really hurt. The person who actually cheated, they need to be the vigilante of the relationship. They really need to become hyper vigilant, really, about being able to prove that they are trustworthy. But it's not as one sided as that, because this sort of thing early in the relationship can also lead to a one down dynamic where the person who cheated is forever the one who's now supposed to make it up to the other partner. That's not the basis for a healthy and equal relationship. So, if that's something that you think you can build in therapy, wherein you can really learn to forgive him, to build a culture of trust, and to trust yourself, it's going to take a lot of work, but it can be done if you want to do it. So I'd say that first figure out what you want. Who are you as a person? What would you really like? I'm hopeful that this helps you. And overall, I'd say a combination of individual and couples therapy sounds like it would be useful in this situation. The books I mentioned were Tell Me No Lies by Ellen Bader and her husband, Pete Pearson. And the other book was After the Affair by Janice Spring. I hope no matter what you decide about the marriage, you are able to see that when difficult times come to us, even if it's a crisis, in fact, especially if it's a crisis, you can make use of it and find a really authentic and stronger and happier version of yourself. And I wish for you that you find that for yourself in the future. And no matter what happens with the marriage, no matter what you decide, you do learn to really trust yourself. All the best to you, Amrita.